Welcome to One Brother and a Shot of Milk. Ladies and gentlemen, that's right. It's just Rich and I today. Lawrence is out and Chris is sick. And today we've decided to take a look back at the film that really kind of started it all for the for the film that really kind of
Whoa.
started it all for the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that movie is, of course, Iron Man 1. I'm not talking about the first Marvel movie that was made. I'm talking about the Marvel Studios film that started what we now know as and take for granted for the last, almost 20 years
Yeah.
of Marvel film content, the MCU. So, Iron Man 1. I'll give you a quick spoiler. Now, this movie been around for a while, so I don't think we're spoiling it for too many people. Although
Right?
it's been around long enough where you might have been 5 when it came out, and you maybe never watched it, and now you're 20 and you missed it. So we're not going to spoil it for you. We will spoil it for you, but first
That's
we'll give our
that's not an
spoiler-free
excuse. I'm
thoughts.
sorry. If you over here in this if you're over in this sphere, you should know what Iron Man is. I don't care how old you were when it came out. If you're heavy in this sphere, you should know. You should have seen it multiple times at this point.
Well, so spoiler-free thoughts, Rich.
Um, it was a good time for the most part. When I really sit back and look at it, I was just like,
Right?
yeah. I was like,
It's
mm.
it's first time I'd seen the movie in quite some time.
Yeah, and I was like,
But
"Man, how did I not notice all this before?"
right, because we mature, and the content around it matures, which is
Yeah,
also why, a lot of people are saying, um, are the MCU films as bad as everyone's acting like they are, or was Endgame just so good, everything's kinda disproportionate now? And this is a good example, looking back at Iron Man, the one that kinda launched this phase of things. Um Spoiler free thoughts. It's a great movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely worth the watch. So let me give you a quick recap, and then we're just going to dive into this bad boy. Is a very quick recap. Tony Stark, playboy billionaire, not to be mistaken with Bruce Wayne, is out making weapons, making money. He's put in a compromised position where his life is saved by a stranger, and this is eye opening to him. And he decides that he needs to start making his life count for something. So he builds the Iron Man armor, which he was already kind of working on before the film even starts, though. That's why he's able to make it so quickly. And he goes around to destroy the weapons caches of his products that are being sold to the wrong forces. Making a long story way shorter, his best friend, surrogate father, and business partner at this point ends up being the big bad of the film, who put Tony Stark in the compromised position where his life was in jeopardy in the first place. He decides to make his own Iron Man suit. Big battle ensues. He didn't learn how to deal with the icing problem because he's taken his suit for its first test ride. They blow up a lot of things. The body count in this movie is ridiculous.
yeah.
And by the end of it, Pepper Potts blows the guy off the rooftop. And Tony ends by telling the world that he's Iron Man. So that's the recap of the film. Rich, what do you think, man? Did this movie hold up watching it again?
Man, Tony Stark should have died like in the first 2 minutes of that movie, bro. Like he should have died multiple times. I'm sitting like, how did I not catch any of this?
Well, how did they do like an open heart surgery thing in a cave and then put like a rusty bottle in his chest?
Before we even get to that, how did he magically avoid all of the shrapnel that penetrated the vehicle that he was in, that literally where he was
Right.
sitting at?
That was crazy, but
And
also
then the
then when
missile,
blew up in his face, but
like
didn't hit his face, but it like killed his chest.
what? That's how we doing this? I'm like, "How did I not see this?"
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, then my man, open heart surgery and, like, unsterile conditions, like, no
and
type of infection?
right, and then no type of infection, and when he got back to America, he didn't go to a hospital. He went to get a cheeseburger and have a press conference, and then he redid his own chest plate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're like, did he even get a shot of penicillin at some point? I did, not that I saw.
Who knows?
Was I
Who
was
knows?
I was very, very if I was watching the movie today, which I watched it yesterday, I would obviously have all kinds of like, what kind of BS is this? But watching the movie 20 years ago when it dropped for the first time, you just kind of you just kind of let it all go,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. And then, what was it? The guy he was locked up with,
Yeah,
I
Yinsen,
I
Yinsen.
Jensen. I laughed when he created a diversion,
Oh
right?
yeah, he's just shooting the guns up in the air.
I'm like, "How are 3 trained soldiers just running from this guy who's just shooting a gun off in
Right.
the air
Yeah.
wildly?"
It also never occurred to me in that opening scene, Tony Stark in his Mark One Iron Man suit has blow torches on his arms, and he's just lighting everybody on fire,
Yeah.
which is a horribly violent way to kill a person.
Yeah.
And like I said, the body count in this movie, although they don't really depict the graphicness of it in a way where you're seeing the death because it's still a PG-13 film. It's actually pretty violent. I mean, he's crushing people with his Hulk
Yes.
smasher arm. I mean,
Yes.
crushing them. Like he hits one guy through a door, another guy gets crushed by a door, another guy gets blown up. A lot of people get shot, and then
Yeah.
he's literally catching people on fire where they're screaming and burning to death. Which is nothing funny to laugh at, but it's like it hadn't occurred to me in hindsight just how violent the film was for. And Iron Man's no superhero on that level. He's not like Superman, and he's not in the comics either. He's a little more humanized in his morality, but they'd certainly come a long way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it was, it was interesting to rewatch it all, be honest with you. Like, one, like, how did you not I mean, I guess with a company that big, you can hide things
Mm.
within the paperwork and then everything like that, but my man made a whole suit and you didn't know? And then it was trash, like and then how did he think he was gonna, like, outdo, like, Tony Stark, the brainchild behind the whole company? Like, I don't like,
Well,
where
it
did
didn't
he
make sense entirely why that plot point was in there to begin with, right? It's like I get that Tony might be a liability, but at the top of the film, before uh, Obi
Obadiah.
Obadiah,
Yeah,
before Obadiah tries to kill Tony Stark, thus making Tony Stark the Tony Stark we know. Tony's just trying to have sex and get rich.
yeah,
So he's not really hurting the company. He's making weapons. If Obadiah had just not tried to take the power play, he would have still been a
would've been good.
millionaire making weapons.
Right.
It really didn't make any sense why Obadiah turns into the villain he is, right?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It just
It
just
was a little weird,
it
right?
wasn't it wasn't a it wasn't a smart business move. That's
It
what we're
wasn't a
talking.
smart business move,
Like, it
right?
his ego was just in the way, he just wanted to be on top of everything
Right?
despite every like, but come on. Anyway, yeah. It just
And
wasn't
it's like if Tony was making armored suits at some point, Obadiah'd still benefit from that. The Tony
right.
Stark, like his whole character underwent a transformation when the stranger Jensen saves his life for no apparent reason and then sacrifices his life to save Tony's life again for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
When his family was dead and he just wanted to see his family anyway. So why was he playing along? That plot point really doesn't make sense. but it puts Tony in path to be a hero. That's Tony's Uncle Ben moment, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so had Obadiah just not done any of that, we would have no Iron Man.
True. That's true. I mean, yeah, but still, it was stupid.
Also, I found Rhodey to be a largely unlikable character in this film.
Yo, he was.
He's like so annoying.
He really was. I'm sitting there like, why did like and I honestly feel like in real life, that's how Terrence Howard was, and that's probably why they didn't bring him back outside of the money issue. But
Well,
I feel like he
is
might have
that
had
what it
like
was? It
in
was a
yeah,
money.
they weren't paying him enough.
I thought Robert Downey Jr. Didn't want to work with them anymore.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But I heard there was
I
also I mean, there's probably multiple stories going around. One of the stories I heard was that they wasn't offering him enough money.
mm. Well, I don't know that I would say with his acting. I mean, I thought his voice was really soft for the character, but whatever. I suppose whatever. But the writing of his character was I didn't see the friendship in the language so well. Like I couldn't tell you why I thought Rhodey and Tony Stark were friends other than the fact that he's a military man and Tony made military weapons and they beta tested the weapons, I would assume. Other
Mm,
than that, which is just a relationship out of necessity, I never really saw the friendship.
yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know what it was like. What it even like in the comics was he even there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Rhodey ends up being War Machine in the comics.
Right, right, right. I don't wasn't big into the Iron Man, but yeah, like I didn't see also didn't see like the connection in their friendship. Like it just seemed like he was just there and we're supposed to believe that they were friends.
Exactly. Like
Like
there
the
needed to be some kind of chemistry.
yeah, and they try to do like the whole the jet when they were flying, and then he was supposed to keep it
Mhm.
all business, but then it ended up being like karaoke and drinking, blah blah blah. But it's just like you can do that with anyone. Like
Right.
he could do that with Happy, you know?
Right. Well, and that's what's funny about the Happy character. I mean, John Favreau, who is also the director and is doing Mandalorian, all this stuff,
Mm.
obviously. But the chemistry between Robert and Happy's character, they had more on-screen chemistry than uh,
Yes.
Terrence did. Even there's a moment where Jeff Bridges comes back from New York with the pizza box,
Mm.
right? And he's like, "You didn't make the the board of directors meeting, Tony." And he I don't know if he improv the moment or if it's in the script, but he says, "Go on, take." He reprimands him, and Tony's leaving, and he goes, "Go on, take a slice of pizza with you." And he comes back and he takes a slice of pizza, and you're like, "There's so much interesting chemistry in that moment." And then obviously, Gwyneth Paltrow is perfectly
Yeah.
cast,
Yeah.
and they just have little looks, and you're like, there's so much chemistry being captured between those two. So,
Yeah.
um, and I don't think, I mean, Terrence Howard is not a bad actor by any
No,
means,
he's
but
not. Like he's great in the things that he's been in, but I just wasn't a fit for him.
Yeah, it's weird. That's kind of what I wonder if the role wasn't a fit or just there was chemistry wasn't alive on screen for
It,
some of these things. But also, I thought his character wasn't written very well. Like, I don't know if Don Cheadle with the same language, he would have given us a different performance.
mm,
But maybe that's what it is. It's like the language on paper makes Rhodey in the film sourpuss and off-putting, but the choice that probably needed to have been made by the actor was to play opposite the language,
hmm,
where the language might be reprimanding. You find love in the language, you know,
okay.
and then that's a trick. You often kind of want to play the opposite, So even though on page it stereotypically feels some way, you play the opposite, and suddenly the scene is a little more interesting. And I feel like
Maybe.
maybe, huh?
I said maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that would have helped a little bit. Anyways, so not to get too labored on, I didn't realize how obnoxious his character was written until watching it back this time. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
very, very whiny.
he's very whiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'll tell you what was really cool watching it though is like the moments where Tony was interacting with the Jarvis computer technology and like
Mm.
slips his hand into the thing to kind of look at the stuff.
Yeah, that's always fun to watch when he does manipulates that. I love the fact that just the him building the suit, you know, being a mechanic and everything like that, just like fascinated me,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was just dope to watch. So, like, I mean, outside of all the technical stuff and physics and so on and so forth, it was just dope to watch him make the Mach. I guess the Mach 2, right? It'll be the Mach 2 suit.
Well, the Mach 2 would have been the silver version. Mach 3 was the first
All right.
red and gold version. Um, yeah, the progression of that was sick, and it's like seeing the things they did in that film. Now it's so overused and oversaturated. It feels like we're seeing this again. But this is the first time we were seeing it. The
Mm.
way he could like expand this 3D holographic image was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, like, his technology was definitely far beyond that of just regular people. He was definitely living in a smart house, and the smartest man in the world was doing what he does.
right. And but what was so cool about it was this is the first time we're seeing it in the film.
Yeah, yeah,
Now
yeah.
we see it in every film. It's like, oh, we gotta see this again.
Yeah,
Um, I wonder, Tom Cruise was uh I don't know if he turned the role down, but they were definitely looking at Tom Cruise for the part at one point. I don't think this movie works without Robert Downey Jr. I think this movie
thing is
only works with Robert.
we're just used to seeing him now. Like, he really made this role. He made this role his own, and he's been doing it for so long, it's hard to envision anyone else doing it now.
Yeah, that is definitely true. But
Like,
even watching this first one, though,
mm,
it's like there's something about him that is so subtly charismatic
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
every moment. He's clearly highly intelligent,
Right.
but not in a "I'm better than you" kind of way, And I don't know that what Robert Downey Jr. has in spades is something most actors aren't even close to being able to occupy the same space.
Hmm.
And it's not because they're bad actors. There are so many phenomenal actors, but like Tom Cruise is a heavier, more dramatic actor. He lacks the levity. Michael Fassbender is so cerebral and emotionally connected. Hugh Jackman has other qualities, and you're like, what Robert Downey Jr. as an actor and a person has innately and is able to bring to that role is so perfect for the role. It's hard to It's hard to reimagine someone else in the part.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty like, even when, what was it, Sherlock Holmes, like, he just
Yeah.
did something there, you know? Like, you really
Hmm.
I mean, other people had played Sherlock Holmes, but, like, no one has really played Sherlock Holmes like Robbie Downey Jr.
Right. You look at Benedict Cumberbatch, who's such a wonderful Sherlock Holmes in the series. He's way heavier. He's
Right.
got a heavier performance quality. Um, so I don't know, and I love the reality of that film, what it did, one for the MCU, and two what it did for Robert Downey Jr., who Robert Downey Jr. at that point really couldn't get a job.
Yeah,
He was
he was really just, like, off the map for a minute, and then this came out, and, like, boom, he was back. He was back
Well, he was
hard.
off the map because he was struggling with drug addiction and he
Yeah.
was in rehab, and then what happens is, you become a liability, and
Mm.
studios don't want to take a chance on you. They don't want to take a risk because you're just going to cost the studio money. And what happens when we get halfway down the film and we have to recast you? So Robert Downey Jr. wasn't getting any work at that time, and Favreau, kind of gave him that. He took a chance.
Yeah.
The studios were a little against it, but he eventually was able to talk him into it. And wow, I mean, what a comeback story!
Oh yeah.
How incredibly good he is in the role, and what it did for the MCU. He's making billions.
Yeah, because even after that, what he did, Tropic Thunder, the Sherlock Holmes movies. Yeah, he came back. He came back in a big way. It was
Yeah.
definitely a good move for him, and just the fact that he cleaned up his life so he can be the mega star that he is now is
hmm
great.
I also love that. Um, watching a lot of behind the scenes stuff for this film at this point, how a lot of the effects were practical effects and then
Yes.
digitally enhanced. So, like when the Mark One armor is walking around torching everything, it is actually a guy in a suit with, you know,
Yeah.
torches on his arm catching stuff on fire. Like when I first watched the movie, a lot of these movies I assume are just all CGI, but
Yeah. Now, yeah.
so much of it is actually practical. It's funny, you know.
Yeah. Now it's all CGI. But yeah, like even when he was uh setting up the Mark One and even the Mark Two, like a lot of that stuff, he was actually wearing that suit. He was actually wearing the pieces. Had him up
Right.
on the harnesses and whatnot, like
Yep.
levitating, or flying. Uh, is dope. It kind of added more to I guess the scene, but
Wait,
as
there's
opposed,
one thing. I'm sorry to cut you off. There's one thing that's always bothered me. It bothered me the first time I watched it, and it's bothered me the last time I watched it.
what was that?
When you watch the movie, getting the armor on and off is no easy task,
Hmm.
right? It's like, obviously, as Tony's technology advances throughout the movies, it becomes easier to interface with and to get the armor on and off and stuff.
Right,
When nanotechnology is admitted, it becomes much easier.
right,
In this movie, that is not the case. It is a whole big process where he's riveted in, and there's locking mechanisms, and nothing is coming undone easily.
right.
In the ending battle, he just tosses off his left hand,
Gauntlet.
though,
Yeah.
gauntlet. He just so easily removes the gauntlet.
Well, didn't he rip it off? He just used the power of the suit to rip it off, right? Or right?
Well, why would you rip off the what? It didn't make any sense. It looked like he was taking his suit off at that point because he had no power left. So he
Uh,
was trying to quickly take the suit off. So he started with the hand, and then Obadiah landed. And so he couldn't continue the process, right?
maybe
Yeah,
when it.
they just did the icing thing.
Mm,
Obadiah's suit couldn't handle the altitude. He crashed somewhere. Tony's thinking, I don't know, either I beat him or I've got a short amount of time. But in either way, I'm about to be stuck in something that I can't move around in because it's not gonna have any power. So he started to take it off, and he took his hand off.
hmm.
But
Right.
if it was that easy to take the suit apart, why are there 3 scenes leading up to this fight scene where we see him struggling to put the suit on and off? That just didn't make any sense.
Wasn't the struggle is the fact that he was trying to figure out how to put the suit on, then he kinda got the mechanisms or the machinery to do it? Because now he stood on a platform and everything just kinda, or we had one where nah, that was that other one.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
yeah.
there's the best line in the movie is he's standing on the platform trying to get the suit off,
Right.
and Pepper Potts walks in and looks at him like he's crazy, and he starts to say something, and then instead goes, "Let's be real. This isn't the worst thing you've seen me do," or
Right.
something like that. He's got this hysterical line, uh, and it only makes sense because he's sitting there being, manhandled by robots trying to undress him.
Yeah, and they're trying to figure it out pretty much. They're trying to get it right because as we've seen throughout the rest of the movies, even before he got the nanotech, when he had to like, what was the best one I saw? When he landed on Avengers Tower. Actually, no, it was Stark's Tower, excuse me. And he
Yeah,
landed on the platform, and he as he was walking,
yeah,
just everything was just coming, like the
yep,
machines were just
yep, yep,
systematically taking
yep,
things off.
yeah. But
I
we ain't
mean,
there
you
yet.
gotta start, yeah, but you gotta start somewhere, right? They
Okay,
were figuring it out.
100%. My
But
point
yeah,
is
I
this: though.
I know, but
The,
it takes so much to put it on and also to take it off. He just easily, I'm trying to remember the scene. He lost power or he
he
was
was
about to
losing
lose.
power.
So
He
I
had
think
like,
I believe he was just ripping it off so he can get it off before he lost power, and then he would have
but
just
it,
been stuck.
but it wasn't broken or anything. He didn't like
I
break
mean,
it off.
either way, once he loses power, you wouldn't be able to move. So at least you would have had a limb to move. I don't know, bro.
But
I
like,
don't know.
what's
Reasons, man.
yeah,
Reasons,
no, but
Jack.
that's the actual answer. It's reasons because literally the scene right before that, he needed three robots to help unscrew the armor from him and release the rivets and stuff.
That's take it off gently. Take it off the correct way. Sometimes you just got to rip things off.
Okay, yeah,
Listen, look, coming from mechanic world, there are correct ways to do things, and
yeah.
there are just fast ways to do things, and usually the fast ways are the most violent and most destructive. But it gets it done when it needs to get done.
It just didn't look like he was breaking it. Just looked like he took it off.
I don't know. Maybe he's put in like some type of measure to like quick release. I don't know, Jack. I
Let's
don't
go with
know.
that. He in the scene prior decided he needed some quick release buttons. I'll
Yeah,
go with that. Okay, cool.
yeah.
What else? Last thoughts on Iron Man 1?
I mean, despite all the things I've missed when I first watched it, it's still a fun time. And again, it's this kicks off the whole MCU.
Yeah.
And I recommend people to sit down and to watch all the MCU movies in order. Yeah, but yeah, yo, definitely it's a watch. It's definitely a watch. You see the origins where Iron Man started, and then you can fast forward to where he's at.
No, I second that 100%. It does not create the cardinal sin of being boring by any degree. This movie is not without its questionable plot points
Mm,
and not without some odd choices made along the way or lack of continuity.
yeah,
But from start to finish, this is a fun film. And Robert Downey Jr. sells it in every single scene. If for whatever reason you are one of the rare individuals out there who do not like Robert Downey Jr.,
yeah. What's wrong
you
with you?
probably won't like this film, but you probably also not listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube video. So
True.
you probably haven't seen any of the movies he's in. If you are a film, and I'm really talking to maybe someone who's in their early to mid 20s who, for whatever reason, missed this movie when it first came out, I would highly recommend if you're into this kind of content and somehow you missed it, definitely go back and pick this one up because it's worth the watch and you should probably know the origin. And this is the one that started all off for the MCU.
Yeah,
Um, and it is a fun film. It's a fun film.
it definitely is. Definitely. Well, that's
All
it.
right. I think that's it. I don't think we need to rate this film.
Nah.
Uh, but we both endorse this film. Oh,
Oh,
let's
I just read why Terrence Howard left Iron Man or did not do Iron Man 2. Downey's salary was increased drastically to a rumored 10 million
Mm-hmm.
plus a cut on the back end profits, whereas Howard's was drastically slashed for just 40,000 per film.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's what I heard. That's the rumors that I
That's
heard.
really that's really funny because Robert Downey Jr. advocated for, when the Avengers movie was happening, he
Yes,
advocated that all those actors get pay bumps.
yes. See, maybe Terrence Howard would have stuck it out. Maybe he'd have got that paycheck. He'd have got
Hmm.
that payday. I don't know. What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk. We're talking